Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking with Fred Lokken, professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain. And for over 90 years, the Nevada Trucking Association has been the voice for the men and women in the trucking industry. From Carson City to Washington, D.C., we advocate for policies to protect our trucking companies and keep commerce flowing. Because Nevada's and America's prosperity is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome back to the program, as always, Fred Lokken. He is professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College and 1,000 other things as well.
Not so much anymore.
Well, I don't know. I still see that list. We're in such an interesting time politically because of where the public is. And it's always interesting to me to see that there are certain points in our history, and especially in our recent history, where without there being an election, the public votes for certain things. And I'll give you for example. Before masks were mandated during COVID, I've told this story before on the show, on a Friday night I go to Whole Foods, and I'm the only person in the store not wearing a mask. And I'm getting these dirty looks from everybody. And like I said, it wasn't mandated at that point. And I thought to myself, you know what? The public has voted. I will be wearing a mask. And at this point, it seems that the public is relatively disillusioned with both political parties, not necessarily with Donald Trump, but with both political parties. And as you know, the nonpartisans are growing. But are they really nonpartisans, or are they just disaffected Republicans and Democrats who are tired of being promised things that don't come to fruition?
Clearly, the two-party system has failed. And it's probably not the first time in American history we can say that, but this was an unfortunate time for it to occur. And
when did it happen? When did it happen previously?
Well, I think the party breakdowns, hyperpartisanship has been something in America off and on throughout most of its history. You could even argue before the parties are identified, they're present even in the convention of 1787. You either hated the British or loved them. And that group was dominated by those who absolutely despised the crown. And actually took over the process. And many British subjects left the colonies at the time because they felt disaffected, and they wanted to stay in the empire. And you could do the Civil War, prior to the Civil War. Hyperpartisanship is a reality of American politics. This one has really gone off the rails, however. One could argue the Republican Party no longer exists. There's something there now, but all of the moderates have been driven out, and they are all residing in the nonpartisan section. And there are Democrats that feel disaffected as well, and so they've left the party. Because we're such a two-sided argument, it's very difficult for a two-party system to be replaced in our system. You can't even get that third party really on most ballots. So we're really kind of stuck, and it's helping fuel this frustration, disgust, and disconnection.
All right, so does that not result in basically a repeat of 2014, where people, despite the amount of money that's going to go into the politics, just stay home?
We're seeing a great deal of that. Even in the 2024 election, in 2020, we reported a 67% voter turnout, which is frankly one of the highest we've had in the country.
In Nevada? Or
across the country.
Across the country.
And we, but improving, actually mail-in balloting has greatly improved the voter turnout of Nevada, which is now in the mid-20s of the states. We used to be like 50th in the nation for voter turnout 20 years ago. But then the reality was that in the 2024 election, it was only 51%. And that was a lot of people staying home, not happy with either candidate. So the problem with that, though, is then it distorts the turnout and it distorts the outcome. And they're not happy with that either. Most Americans don't really know how to drive the politics. They just know when they're happy or not happy.
And why should they know how to drive the politics? I mean, in the entertainment world, you have to know how to entertain. One of the failures of big broadcasters is that they go out and do surveys of what people like and what people don't like, whereas actual entertainers know how to entertain. They put on a show. Comedians, for example, try out material in clubs and build up an act and then put it on a special on Netflix or wherever it might be. But the reality is that leaders have to come up through the ranks and prove themselves. And that doesn't, appear to be happening. And I think term limits has a lot to do with this.
I fully agree. I think voters in America have never understood the power they have. In other democracies, voters, the system is an easier system to understand. Americans have always been bewildered by the political process. And I think some maybe went with the complex design in the hopes of bewildering those voters, but they just don't really know where they need to be in the process. And so we tend to hunker down. We pull out. We pout as voters when we're not happy with what the two-party system is doing. And that's probably the very worst thing to do at that time. It just, frankly, history tells us, usually makes it worse. And then we have an even bigger mess to clean up. But politics has never been a beloved topic in America. It ranks down there with used car salesmen and others, as our level of respect has plummeted for government over the decades and centuries. We are very cynical people in the 21st century. We're not the land of hope we used to be, and we don't see politics as solving any of our problems anymore.
Okay, so I don't know if I agree with you that we're cynical. I think that term limits has, about politics in general, I think that term limits have really messed us up in terms of, we used to have people that had been around for a long time that, if you were of that party, or even if you weren't of that party, you respected, you knew their names, you saw them on television or heard them on the radio or read about them in newspapers. And term limits has really destroyed that. Look at where we are with the legislature, where we're losing pretty much the entire leadership, except for Robin Titus, going into the next cycle. And everybody's got a new job or looking for a new job. You don't have a 37-year reign of a Bill Raggio. You don't have a legislative session record of a Joe Dini or a Barbara Buckley that, as it were, the young people could look up to, not necessarily young, but could look up to and see the leadership. And the public would have an awareness of who these people are, because year after year they appeared on the ballot, their names were quoted, they were themselves were appearing with their own quotes. I think that's a big part of the problem, is that we don't have that connection with these people anymore.
And I fully agree. We've had this conversation before, because term limits against on only the people that represent you, while not doing anything about bureaucrats or lobbyists, really distorts your representation, and it really makes things unravel. People, it takes time to understand the legislative process and to build relationships, and then we snap our fingers and, okay, it's reset time for many of these individuals. We're very lucky that we have the quality that's interested, but I think it also attacks over time the quality of the person that shows up, because putting all that time and investment just to see it arbitrarily end, regardless of your performance in office, really, I think, discourages a lot of good people from participating. However, on the other side of the equation is the lack of term limits at the national level, which hasn't helped us either. People sometimes don't know that they should have left a long time ago, that there is a need for generational turnover, that there is a time for fresh leadership, and it's
called death in the Senate.
Yeah. No, and it looks like things are finally moving on that regard, but there has been a stubbornness.
Sadly.
Well, they're going to die anyway. Right?
Well,
everybody dies, isn't that the quote from Joni Ernst? So.
Right, but I mean, the somewhat amusing side of this is that, in the Senate, people have been wheeled in hospital beds to vote. I mean, on death's door, not even able to communicate, and they're voting because their staff wheels them in. I mean, and that's history. That's not just a current thing, but it's
always has been. But again, the power that you can build over time, and states didn't. Well, and remember, it was appointed, not elected, until 1913. So I mean, there were appointments that allowed people to stay there a very long time, because of the influence they got for the size of state they weren't, or for the benefits that they got from someone who was really dialed into Washington and could bring federal monies and other things. There are good and bad to both systems, but the ultimate power should be at the ballot box with the voters deciding when someone has served too long. And what's really interesting is that Americans often enjoy voting for an incumbent because they've built that relationship. They trust that individual. And is that a bad thing? Populism has its benefits, but unfortunately the voters are never given the information they need to understand the impact of a 2/3 requirement for budget, which our founders didn't even impose in the Constitution on the legislature, and which literally allows for now a dictatorship of the minority over the majority in every system where it's imposed. It's unfortunate, but we make mistakes at the ballot box too.
All right, but I mean, is it the responsibility of the public? There was a movie called The Rise and Rise of Michael Rimmer, which you can still find if you search hard enough for it. Probably came out in the 1960s. And it was about an advertising agency head who ran a campaign for the Prime Minister of England. And the two of them were on a North Sea oil rig. And the advertising executive pushes the Prime Minister off the oil rig and ends up becoming the Prime Minister. And his campaign turns out to be that he wants to give power back to the people. And so it cuts to scenes of these people showing up at people's houses with boxes like the Queen would get of all the different bills, right, that are going through Parliament. And then it cuts to a scene of a regular family sitting around the dinner table, and the father going, "Well, Mother, what do you think? Should we let China into the UN or not?" And they're going through all these complex issues. And it's, of course, driving them insane because there's more and more of these things coming through. And finally, the former advertising executive, now Prime Minister, says, "You know what? This is too much. So I will take all of this back and we will govern, but I want to be president instead of Prime Minister." And that's how he rises up to the top. It's a fascinating movie, but I think it explains that the average person doesn't have the time or energy. They go to work, they're trying to raise a family, they're trying to help their kids in school, in their sports activity, their youth activities. They elect people to make decisions. And the problem is that the decisions that are being made are not necessarily the ones that benefit the public in the end.
Well, in
Long-winded intro there.
one of the best stories that I've ever enjoyed from me. But the reality is that, a lot of people here see the parliamentary system and really see that it addresses a number of those issues. It does simplify a great deal. They run on programs. If they're elected and form a majority, they actually do what they're promising. They establish a lifetime relationship with a party, not necessarily with individuals. It's not a personality driven. And it's a very clean process. I mean, you just know you're going to go and vote. And you only vote, like in Britain, in a 5-year cycle. An average Brit makes a total of 5 election decisions. 5. In Nevada, in a 5-year cycle, 145 decisions, right? Because in the federal system, we have 96,000 elected positions, over 500,000 if you include school boards across the United States. We have elections going every 2 years for different levels of government. It's complicated, and we've paid a price. I'm not a huge fan of federalism in the 21st century. I think it's outlived its usefulness for it.
But then look at Britain and the crises after crises that the prime ministers have gone through, one after the other. I mean, it's not any cleaner system that in terms of, oh yes, let's elect somebody, let's keep them there for the 5 years, because they can call an election any time. They call an election when they think they can win, and they don't want to run out the clock to that whole 5 years, because at the end of that 5-year period, they may not be doing so well in the public view. But the other part of it, of course, and we'll talk about it after the break, is the money, which is insane. And we'll get to that after we take this time out.
Fantastic cocktails and delicious food. It's a good time to eat. Over 500 hot slots plus electronic table games.
It's a good time to play.
Player rewards and big time jackpots.
It's a good time to win.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Fred Lokken. He's professor of political science at Turkey Meadows Community College. The money. I've been talking to some fundraisers who do fundraising, not just in Nevada, but across multiple states. And they say there is no shortage of money for politics this time around, despite the economy and concerns about the economy. Politics is a thriving business. And one person actually told me, and I don't want to scare anybody, but the Reno mayor's race could be $1 million race. Does that make any sense
Not at
in
all.
this world?
But presidential races in the multiple billions doesn't make sense either, or a Senate seat we've spent $100 million on a Senate race. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. And it's wrong. I mean, we have way too much money in American politics.
Well, and it seems like there's a whole subculture of companies that run campaigns with candidates they know have no chance of winning, but they have money, and therefore they run these campaigns. and I just kind of throw up my hands. And you know what's sad is that I think that there are some excellent candidates out there who are running for the wrong offices, that they should be running at a lower level. And and I don't mean disrespect by this, but running for the assembly or the state senate or the county commission or city council or any of the other positions, working their way up so they understand how the system works before they get in there, and that they're not spending, for example, the first 2 sessions of a legislature figuring out how to get down the corridors.
I agree with you entirely, and it's the money is part of the problem because it allows them to reach higher. Each level of political office historically has always had a price tag increase. As it gets to be a bigger district with more representation and more visible, it generally the cost of running for that race increases. But so many people now, basically with no background whatsoever, seem to think that they can be a congressman or something and just go straight for the House. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes to mind as someone that went from really nowhere to 5 years now in the House of Representatives. But we went through a bumpy 3-4 years with a heck of a lot of on-the-job learning going on.
And by the way, we can say that happens on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, completely. We could spend the rest of the show discussing
yes, we could.
Huge number of mistakes. And the quality of the candidates, we have a crisis of leadership. This is an uncomfortable topic sometimes. But I used to talk to my students, and none of them want to run for office.
Why would you?
Exactly. I mean, we have a serious, you must be crazy to do it kind of thinking. And frankly, I think it makes it very hard for the quality candidates to get above the din. But there are just a lot of people out there that are not qualified, are not capable, are really wasting their time and a lot of other people. But the parties fail. They used to be able to be the gatekeepers. They used to be able to sort this, even in the nonpartisan races. And they don't have control over the process.
Well, yes and no, because if you go back to, say, John Connolly, back in the 60s, he spent, I think it was $11 million and got, I think, one vote, basically. I mean, this is not something new. Ross Perot was a spoiler and spent a fortune. I mean, he ran a great campaign until he went crazy, right, and then jumped back in, and of course it was too late by then. But I mean, this is not something new.
No, it's not. In fact, the Ross Perot machine was a moneymaker for the family. They always hired everybody in the family, and that's basically how they were employed every 4 years. But they got really good salaries that year. But the public doesn't know this. Again, we've lamented before on this program, the length of our campaigns are insane. The cost of our campaigns are insane. And really the lack of substance in our campaigns. It's dangerous to be a candidate and be on important issues of the day because you've taken a stand on it. So you've offended voters right off the bat. They don't want to respect the fact that you have an opinion. They hate your opinion. American politics has gone down a bad rabbit hole, and I don't know if we dig it back out of it.
Oh, of course we do.
Well, you're an optimist.
I am an optimist. Well, that's fine. That's why we should get
I tell my students from the last days of Rome. Which day are we?
Yes. Well, hopefully we have a ways to go. Let's take another break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation, and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. But it's more than just growth. Our community is our foundation, supporting families, empowering local initiatives, and creating a place where everyone belongs. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Join us in building a brighter future right here in Story County. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Rev it up during the $250,000 Cash and Wheels Guaranteed giveaways at Carson Valley Inn. Thousands in cash and free play every Thursday and Saturday. Drive away with a 2025 Ford Bronco or $45,000 guaranteed. Rev it up at the Carson Valley Inn.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Fred Lokken, professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College. I just have to relate that Harry Reid told me that when the movie Lincoln came out, that he took his staff to see it, and then he took his caucus to see it because he said, this is what we do every day. And you know, in the movie, you know, you're in the lame duck session of Congress, and to get the votes, they go ahead and, you know, have all these jobs available for people who are, you know, have been defeated in their election cycle, and that's how they get the votes for the Emancipation Proclamation. It's a fascinating piece of political history.
We have much to discuss going forward, that's for sure.
Always, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm optimistic.
I'm guarded.
We'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience.
Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. You can always watch our shows anytime on the website at nevadanewsmakers.com or the podcast. We have audio and video podcasts from all your favorite podcast locations and YouTube. Find us everywhere. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching.